Don't you hate when you're highly anticipating a comic book? You're like all excited and you go ahead and you open it up and then you start reading it. You're like, okay. And then you're halfway through and you're like, it's okay. And you're like, is it going to get better? And then you close that book and you're like, man, that book was absolute trash. Hey, all my webheads out there, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. And fans, I am your host, Mike Spider Slayer, always helping you make decisions of what comic books to buy. And today, guys, I am bringing you another episode of After the Pool. Yes, it's a little bit late, but, sometimes things get in the way. But, guys, this is the video series where I take about 5 or 6 of my most anticipated comic books I was looking forward to reading, and I share with you guys my thoughts on these comic books. Now, just to let you guys know, there are spoilers in these reviews, so if you haven't read your comics, go read your comics first and then come back and then you can be a part of this discussion. And of course, guys, if you want to become a Webhead member, just go ahead and hit that join button right there on my home screen. Guys, you will become a member, have extra perks, and of course, it does support the channel, so thank you in advance. All right, guys, so let's get started with this week's episode of After the Poll. And the first book we're going to be talking about today is Spawn, issue 321. Everyone's on Spawn right now. They're getting ready for the Spawn universe. We had King Spawn last week, and now this kind of gets you amped up, ready for everything that is happening with Spawn. And issue 321, I think it's kind of like a setup of things to come. It kind of touches on medieval Spawn, on who medieval Spawn actually is. And when you look at the interior artwork, it's always a lot of fun to look at. This book is great. The characters look great. You got Mark, you got Spawn, you got She-Spawn in there as well. The artwork is done by Carlo Barberi. Again, it's a really nice book to look at. And in this particular issue, we have Spawn, who is basically not sure who's entering his super secret base, and he's basically kicking out Jessica, who is She-Spawn, and he's trying to kick out Mark, which is actually medieval Spawn, but he doesn't even realize he's medieval Spawn. He just knows he's been studying the armor or whatnot. They think that he's been disappearing, so they have no idea who it is. And then you come across this one guy who is actually kidnapped this young woman, has raped her. He's kept her for like a couple years, and of course, Spawn does what he usually does, and he punishes people. And interesting story, and we get again more about medieval Spawn. I don't want to say like a lot has happened in this issue, but it is an entertaining read, and again, it's kind of setting up more things of what's to come when it comes to Spawn. You can't deny the price of this book. It is a $2.99 comic. The artwork is great, and let me tell you, when you get Todd McFarlane covers on there, you can't pass it up for that cheap price point. Again, was it the best story? Probably not, but it was okay this particular week. All right, comic book fans, the next book we're going to be talking about, and I thought this one was really good this week. This was Geiger issue 6. This is the conclusion to the first story arc, and this was an explosive issue. This book had so much action, and let me tell you, Gary Frank's artwork is absolutely amazing through this whole entire book. You get these great action scenes. The colors are so bright and vibrant, and it's just always a visual treat to look at this book as well. I mean, it's so awesome. Love all these characters' facial expressions, right? But what happened in the conclusion of this issue? Well, let's talk about it a little bit here. So we got the two kids, who is Haley and Henry, and Henry winds up having leukemia, and they're at this supposed safe place. However, they don't have enough room to keep everybody. So whoever's sick, they just keep them in the place and let them die off, right? And they keep the healthy. Obviously, Haley doesn't want that. Tyreek, who is Geiger, does not want that. And what happens is they try to escape this safe place, but obviously, they're causing all kinds of ruckus going on in this place, and we wind up getting the introduction to a new character, and his name is called Junkyard Joe, and he is this cybernetic army man. And little do we know, in this particular issue, we are getting introduced to one of the other characters that are going to be in the Geiger universe. And I was like, whoa, man. So it is true. We're going to get multiple books when it comes to the Geiger universe. And we get to see this huge battle commence between Junkyard Joe and Geiger. And it was amazing. Such an awesome battle between these two. One of his sticks winds up breaking. He winds up exploding. There's no saving Tyreek. And basically, we wind up seeing the final story being told between Geiger, the King, and all the other characters in this particular tale of Geiger. Really interesting book. Definitely loved it. That's like kind of the explosion that happened at the end of the book. But like I said, this is not the end of Geiger. I think we're going to see more of him, and then you're going to see more of this character right here, which is Junkyard Joe, right? And you get a little bit of a timeline of all the other superheroes that are in the Geigerverse. And we're going to eventually see all these books as well, which I totally did not see that coming. So totally excited about that. And we're going to get an 80-page giant of Geiger as well. And this one will be coming out in November. So and that price point for that book is $8. So I give Jeff Johns a lot of credit here, and Gary Frank, for coming out with this universe and their line of comic books. I'm looking forward to more. At first I didn't think this was that great, like the first issue or so, and this book has definitely gotten better as time gone along. I definitely recommend Geiger. All right, webheads, let's get this one out of the way, and this one is Sinister War, issue 4. The last issue of the Sinister War issues. It still kind of continues in the Amazing Spider-Man issues. But when it comes to the artwork in this book, it's actually good. But there's just a lot of different artists in here. Again, it's one issue. I don't know why we can't get just one artist on an issue. And maybe if you need to do multiple artists, just do them on each individual issue. However, it's still kind of cool to see all these villains. But that's really all this part of Sinister War is seeing all the villains chase Spider-Man and try to kill him, right? Now, there's one thing that happens here, and while reading this issue, it makes sense why this particular character has been in the series this entire time, because Nick Spencer has planned for Boomerang's death, and it happened in this particular issue. So we wind up seeing Spider-Man, who actually is being captured by Moreland in here, and Fred Myers, aka Boomerang, sacrifices himself, and his soul is sucked from Moreland, and he winds up dying, and Fred is actually dead. So what happens is you try to get the friendly or fearless foes of Spider-Man kind of go against Kindred at the moment, because they see that Boomerang is dead. Spider-Man gets a little bit of an upper hand. It delays the inevitable. However, Dr. Octopus comes up with some secret device to destroy all the little centipede creatures in the villain's ear, and then everyone is knocked out, and Spider-Man escapes, and Doc Ock shows Spider-Man mercy. When did he have time to construct this little device? Did he always have it? And if he always had it, why didn't he use it earlier, right? So what did we get out of this? Dr. Octopus helped Spider-Man, but the biggest thing was Fred Myers, aka Boomerang's death. And I think Nick Spencer planned this all along. That's why he inserted Boomerang in this run. So that's all I got out of this particular issue. Did I feel for Boomerang? Not really. It just kind of happened. I didn't see it there. They tried to make it kind of cool, but I don't know. It wasn't an emotional death for me whatsoever. So who cares? I'm over this whole thing at this point. So that's Sinister War. I just want to see who Kindred is at this point, and I want to see what happens to Peter, because it looks like he's surviving. So I guess he's just going to die now in the hands of Kindred, which should have happened issues ago. Okay, webheads, next on the list, we're going to be talking about Batman. That's right, Fear State Alpha, written by James Tynion. Now, we don't get the normal artist on this issue. The artwork's not horrible, but it's just not what I'm used to. And being that there was so much dialogue in this issue, I felt a little bit bored by it. In fact, not a little bit bored, actually a lot of bored, because I felt like we were trying to get reintroduced to everything that was going on in Batman's world. And if you've read Batman previously, you kind of know all this stuff that was going on, right? And they tried to squeeze all of these different topics in. You got to see the history of Scarecrow and Saint meeting together in Arkham Asylum and the demands on what they required to make their agreement work. We wound up getting to see the Magistrate take over. We wound up getting to see Gotham in all this disarray, and we see all these news broadcasts, and it was just a complete bore fest. I'm like, oh my God, there's nothing here that I don't already know. Now, I understand why this issue exists. It's because if you haven't read Batman in the past and you want to jump on this event, go ahead, jump on here. We're going to tell you everything. And that's what this issue was about. The one thing that I did like about this issue is something was taking over Oracle, which looked like Brother's Eye, which I thought was an entertaining maybe 2 or 3 pages, as you got to see the whole Bat family was there, and they're not sure what was going on until you wind up seeing Brother's Eye make his appearance there. At least that's who I think it was anyway. And then at the end of the issue, you wind up seeing Harley and the Gardener and all of the other residents of the collective trying to find Poison Ivy, asking for refuge so these people can heal and they can't get found. And, Dark Poison Ivy is looking for the other piece of herself so she can be herself again. And, that was really it. But I just was not entertained by this issue whatsoever. Everyone thinks that Batman is dead, and now it looks like we're going to get Chase. I think that's his name. I don't even know what name he goes by anymore, who's going to get in the bat suit. And and that was it. This was a very underwhelming comic. Now, again, this is the alpha issue. This is getting you caught up for everything that has happened at this point. But if you want to invest in this entire event, it's gonna run you a lot of issues, and it's going to take place through pretty much the entire DC universe. So what I have decided is I'm not reading this entire thing. I'm not doing that. I'm just going to read Batman and whatever other books I currently read at DC and follow it through there. I'm sure I'll understand the gist of the story in the main series, and that is it. So at the end of the day, if you're into Fear State, if you're into Tynion's run-in, if you like this Batman run, this book is for you. Okay, guys, this next book that we're going to discuss was number 8 on my most anticipated list for that particular week. And man, do I regret reading this book. If there is one of the worst stories I have read this year, it's going to be this book right here. And this is The Avengers issue 48. This introduces the Winter Hulk. This is no way in shape or form going to be some kind of spec book in the future. If anything, it's going to go in the trash for a lot of people because they have so far removed She-Hulk from what she was. It's ridiculous, right? Luckily, we're going to be getting a new series with She-Hulk, and hopefully she gets back to the way she was. But I thought they would start addressing that here, maybe in this issue. Maybe she would still have some kind of resemblance of what she was, right? But that's not the case here. I should have known based off of the cover alone this was going to be rough. So here is the interior artwork right here. We got Jennifer Walters busting through places, grabbing Gorilla Man. You know, how does she turn red and why does her hair turn blonde? Like, what the heck is all that, right? So here you got some more artwork. The artwork is, I wouldn't say bad, but if it wasn't like She-Hulk, right? Like it would have been pretty good if She-Hulk wasn't in there, or if that represented She-Hulk. It could have been a completely different character, and I would have been okay with it. But anyway, this story is atrocious. We wind up seeing Gorilla Man at a bar, feeling sorry for himself, and he's just like, I want to die, and I can't stand living forever. And it's like, I feel bad because I betrayed the Avengers because I gave Jennifer Walters up, and now she's this thing, and she busts through, and she winds up again taking Gorilla Man, and he's like, you don't want to do this, you don't want to kill me, because then you're going to get this power, and things like that. And the next thing you wind up going is, it goes to a story about Blade, of how vampires took over I don't know, this particular place. I don't know. And Blade just makes his random appearance, 2 pages, and then he leaves. And then you get Thor in this issue as well, and Echo's just like trying to talk to him about things about, oh, if you have any questions about me being the Phoenix, come to me. And Thor's just like, yeah, whatever. He just like walks away. So that's randomly inserted. And then they go on this random mission. Like it's She-Hulk has this mission, I guess, put into her brain that she has to destroy Atlantis and has to go against Namor. Where the hell did this come in through everything? But that's what happens in this book. Like, she's fighting all of Namor's people, and she's supposed to take over Atlantis. That is the mission. So, yeah, I guess Russia takes over Atlantis. They're in control. Gorilla Man practically almost dies at the end of the issue, and that's it. What did I read? I read, I kid you not, the worst comic book of the year. This was so bad. This doesn't even touch on going to the Avengers or where they were. Like, all of a sudden she just randomly goes to freaking Atlantis. When did that come into play? Like, shouldn't she go to the Avengers and go after them and try to destroy them? That would have been at least a different story there. And they could at least try to freaking, get her mind back or whatever. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what I read here. This book is so bad. When is Jason Aaron going to get off of Avengers? I don't know, but do not buy this book at all. However, whenever there's a really bad book, there's always one really good one that makes up for it. And guys, it was Dark Ages issue 1. This book was absolutely phenomenal. We have been waiting for this book since last year, but obviously it was delayed due to COVID, and this book was written by Tom Taylor, and the artwork was done by Ivan Coelho. I don't know if I say his name right, but the artwork in this book is really good. I love all the characters' facial features in this book, the layouts, the paneling, the colors. All the characters were rich in detail. The action was explosive. I mean, this was a really, really good book, and we got introduced to Yatu once again. The Watcher was in this book. The Unmaker, I think, was his name, which was the creature behind this whole darkness situation that has happened. It was a awesome book to look at and to read. This is a great story. Tom Taylor does such a great job with these Elseworld stories or these apocalyptic stories, and it's happening right here again in Marvel, and we're just getting started. This is kind of the introductory issue on how the Earth basically fell apart, and I love those stories, right? And basically, the way this book starts off is you get narration from Spider-Man telling this story, how they got to the Dark Ages. And it just kicks off with like Jessica Jones and Luke Cage, and we get to see Peter's young daughter here by the name of May, which is kind of cool. And everything starts off really nice, but then all hell breaks loose. There's earthquakes, everything is about to go to shit in this issue, right? Apocalypse feels it. Professor X feels it. Xavier feels it. Did I say Professor X already? They all feel this. Devil Dinosaur, Moon Girl, the Watcher, they all come, and they explain who this creature is, and it's called the Unmaker, which was originally created to stop all evil in the universe, destroy black holes, all kinds of things. But since this thing has been around for like a millennia, all of a sudden it's turned and it's become evil. So what happened is we get the living tribunal, who actually was the only thing that could stop this creature, and stuck it in the center of the earth when earth was inhabitable at the particular time. So what happens is you wind up getting this strike team that is sent out, which consisted of Vision, Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, Invisible Woman, Sue Storm, and they go and they try to go into the center of the earth to try to destroy this creature. Now, this creature will do anything to get out of the earth, to destroy earth, and to start destroying the galaxy and everything else around it, right? So our team goes out in there, and this creature is very, very strong. But before I get to that, I love how Tom Taylor had to throw in X-23 and Honey Badger in there, because obviously he wrote that series and created Honey Badger, which I thought was really awesome, right? But anyway, as we get back to the series, this Unmaker thing is just unstoppable. It destroys Ben Grimm in the issue. I mean, just takes him and makes him into pebbles. The next thing you wind up seeing is Scarlet Witch winds up getting destroyed by this creature as well. So our heroes are getting picked off left and right. So Doctor Strange comes up with this spell to go into this to this other dimension that has this EMP, right? Electromagnetic impulse, whatever. That's what it is. And he winds up using this to destroy the creature. So they're very successful, but in the process, Doctor Strange winds up getting killed, and he never closes the portal, and so it infects the entire Earth, and everything goes dark. Anything that's, I guess, machine related or electric powered related works in this universe, because even Spider-Man's web shooters didn't work anymore. So everything just fell apart. And at the end of the issue, you of course find out who was telling this story, and this was 7 years later, when Spider-Man, Peter Parker, is telling the story about the Dark Ages. And at the end, you wind up seeing like Apocalypse, you wind up seeing steam-powered Iron Man, you get to see Beast, you get to see some of the heroes that have adapted to this new Dark Age world. And I thought this was amazing. This was so good. And we're just getting started. That villain just died in one issue. Now we have to see how everybody else survives in the Dark Ages. And I love that. It is such a good book. It's right up my alley. But I'm not the only one that thinks that. Everyone else that I know has read it has said it's been phenomenal. So definitely a must read, guys. Pick up Dark Ages issue 1 if you still can at your comic book shop. All right, Webhead, so there you have it. There are the books that I talked about this week. Now I want to know in the comments section below, what were your favorite books this week? What were your least favorite books this week? And guys, as always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe. Don't forget to hit that bell. And if you like my content, I'll leave you more content right next to me. Just go ahead and click on it. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3, right? So, guys, until next time, keep reading, keep collecting, keep buying those comic books. And this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off.